Ever wondered what our world would look like if the Soviet Union never fell? It's a massive what if that would change everything we know. Let's travel back in time to an alternate 1991, where the hammer and sickle still fly high. First, let's picture the political map. Without the collapse, there would be no independent Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, or the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. These 15 republics would remain under Moscow's control. The Berlin Wall? It might still be standing, a stark symbol of a divided Europe. The Cold War wouldn't have ended. It would have just continued. The world would remain a tense chessboard, with the US and the USSR as the two dominant players locked in a perpetual stalemate. International relations would be defined by this rivalry, with proxy wars and espionage continuing to shape global events. Imagine a world where the threat of nuclear conflict is a daily reality, not a relic of history. Technologically, things would be fascinatingly different. The space race would never have slowed down. Instead of cooperating on the International Space Station, the US and the Soviets would be racing to build their own separate stations, maybe even competing for the first base on the Moon or Mars. On the ground, the Internet would have evolved differently. In our timeline, the Internet grew out of a US military project and flourished in a globalized, open world. In a world with a strong USSR, we'd likely see two separate Internets, a Western one and a heavily censored, state-controlled Soviet Runet. This digital iron curtain would create a profound divide in information and culture, with citizens on either side getting a very different picture of the world. Think of it like the ultimate firewall, splitting the digital globe in two. Economically, the Soviet command economy would have had to adapt or die. In our timeline, it failed. But in this alternate reality, perhaps a reform-minded leader, someone like Gorbachev but more successful, manages to introduce market elements without causing the entire system to crumble. This could lead to a hybrid state-capitalist model, similar to modern China. The USSR would become a global manufacturing powerhouse, leveraging its vast resources and cheap labor. Instead of made in China, your electronics might say made in the USSR. This would create a powerful economic rival to the United States, but life for the average Soviet citizen might still be tough, with limited consumer choices and state control over major industries. The queues for bread might be gone, but the shelves wouldn't be overflowing with Western brands. What about daily life and culture? Without the influx of Western culture in the 90s, Russia and Eastern Europe would have a completely different vibe. No McDonald's in Red Square, no Hollywood blockbusters dominating the cinemas. Instead, Soviet culture, its films, music, and art, would have continued to evolve on its own path. We might see a thriving, state-sponsored creative scene, producing unique works that we can only imagine. Pop culture would be split. While the West listens to grunge and pop-punk, the Soviet youth might be rocking out to their own government-approved bands. The cultural exchange we take for granted would be minimal, creating two parallel worlds of art and entertainment. This enduring Soviet Union would also change global conflicts. The wars in the Balkans in the 90s might have played out very differently, with Moscow backing its traditional allies like Serbia more forcefully. The Middle East would also be a hotter flashpoint. Soviet support for certain Arab states would be unwavering, potentially preventing or escalating conflicts in ways we can't predict. The War on Terror, as we know it, might never have happened, because the geopolitical landscape would be focused on the superpower rivalry, not on non-state actors. The world's attention, resources, and military might would be aimed squarely at the other side of the Iron Curtain. Ultimately, a world where the Soviet Union never collapsed would be a more divided, more tense, and arguably less dynamic place. The globalization that has defined the last 30 years, for better or for worse, would have been stifled. We would live in a bipolar world, defined by suspicion and competition rather than cooperation. While some might argue this stability prevents smaller conflicts, it would come at the cost of freedom and self-determination for millions of people. The vibrant, independent nations of Eastern Europe and Central Asia would still be provinces of a vast empire. It's a powerful thought experiment. The fall of the Soviet Union wasn't just the end of a country. It was the start of the modern world as we know it. Its survival would have meant a completely different 21st century. What do you think? How else would the world be different? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into an alternate timeline, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more mind-bending what-ifs. Thanks for watching.